are with Koen Vanderhoydonk. Koen has been rated as one of the top Regtech influencers in the world, and we're going to take a deep dive into Regtech and its potential. Koen, thank you so much for joining today. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get into this, and what's your backstory?
No, absolutely. I love to, and thank you very much for the interview. It's also an honor to be in this conversation as we speak. So, no, how do I actually became an influencer? I think it's something that just comes naturally. If I look back, I always had a passion for banking, and that's also my belief. I don't think it can be just be a mission to become an influencer. It's something that just overcomes you because you do it from your heart. It's a passion, and you basically, you want to spread your passion to the world, and I think that's what it is about.
Mm-hmm. So, what are some of the exciting projects that you're currently working on?
Oh, that's very easy to answer. What keeps me busy all day and night, is obviously my current role. I am CEO for Blanco, and Blanco as such is already a Regtech. So we're in the wealth management space, and we're helping the wealth management industry to evolve. And because there's a lot of regulation, you have an automatic link with Regtech. But more in particular, also, I was recently involved in the Netherlands in a project where they are trying to bring an ICO project into the general public. Because today there are some challenges in that. And what I remember of that first meeting, it was a kickoff meeting with many, and within that meeting there were all the parties involved in the regular industry, like an exchange, like a bank, a custodian bank, even a startup, a this and a that. There was a bunch of people all around the room, and we really were trying to make it happen. And I think that was so great, and trying to overcome those barriers that we still have today.
So at Blanco, what are the types of services you offer at Blanco?
Okay. Yeah, we offer a few types of services. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we do provide a few types of services. But first of all, important for Blanco is that we believe that banking is a traditional art, and it can be done by human contact. It's when you look people in the eyes, that's where you can make the right decisions with the client, because you know how the market, or you have a view on how the market will evolve, and you can actually walk that through with your clients. So to us, that is what wealth management is about. But wealth management is under pressure because there's a lot of difficulties in the market. There's price pressure, there's regulatory pressure, but there's also pressure from the digital side. There's digital transformation all over the place. And if you look at that, I mean, there's robo-advisors that are coming. So these people that are traditionally in wealth management, they feel that pressure strongly. And that's where we are offering services to actually help them to be relevant in a future model. And if you look at those services, we now primarily started with digital onboarding, with KYC, suitability, investment proposals, all in a digital way. So we want to really manage the life cycle of a client in a digital fashion. That's part one. And also what we're building as well is, so we're building a real securities administration system within the cloud. So meaning that you can do order management, portfolio management, all of that in one baseline. It's a little bit like Alexa, the artificial intelligence assistant. It's also running on one platform, and if you actually use it, let's say in US, it has a different behavior than if you would use it in Belgium. But essentially, it's the same engine behind. It's the same program.
Voice-enabled AI, is that what it is?
Excuse me?
AI? Is it voice AI? Voice-based?
No, it's not voice AI, but it's the technology behind Alexa. It's also on AWS cloud, more particularly on the serverless stack. But it's important for us that it's on that, not so much from a technology point of view, but pretty much for the fact that the technology that you use enables you to make a new paradigm shift in the industry. Right. You can do things that were not possible before. And I give you an example. It was very difficult in the past. I come from Europe, I come from Belgium. If I look at the different countries that we have typically speaking, European legislation. And it's 99%, it's the same everywhere. But every single country is doing sugar plating, or sorry, gold plating or sugar coating.
Yeah.
So they basically make changes, and they understand things a little bit different than another country. So it makes it extremely difficult for traditional players just to lift and shift their programs and their software from one country to another. So in practice, it doesn't happen. So that's why it becomes something very expensive at the end, because if you need to change something, you actually need to do it in the software in the local country. Where our belief is that we need to do it centralized, but you need to make the backend flexible enough to adapt to all local legislations. So you almost have a program that scales by nature.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at Blanco. And because you do that, you can deliver in the best with better prices. The cost is lower for the client as well. And you can build them based upon latest technology. So your user experience is very central.
Right. I agree with you. It's so important to have solutions that are scalable, that could take into consideration the cross-border requirements, and especially in Europe, because it's also interconnected, you know. So it's a great point. So what, in your view, are the top 5 ways? I mean, we see that there's a lot of volatility in the market with, you know, the cryptocurrency and the virtual currencies and all of that. And how do you think, according to you, in your view, are the top 5 ways Regtech could help stabilize or professionalize the crypto markets?
Well, I think it's a good question, and I must admit it took me a while just to come up with 5 points, because I think the reason for that is that everything that's happening in crypto land is pretty much something very fresh and new. And then I probably think that when I say that, people look at me, but that's not true, Koen, because cryptocurrency is huge, and I totally agree with that. But what I mean is that the ICO market or cryptocurrency market is not big with the general public. If I would go to my neighbor, there would be an immediately feeling of distrust. And I think that, to me, is already a huge thing to overcome. It's about reputation. So I think it's upon us to make sure that we can bring reputation to a better place. And then, if I mentioned before this topic about with the Dutch players that you try to combine, one of the first things that came out was reputation. We need to work on the branding, because if we cannot bring ICOs to a general public and show the world that it's used to do the right things in the financial industry, my neighbor will never trust an ICO to be part of his pension saving.
Of course, yeah.
And in my opinion, that's so important, that you break this and that you actually break that silo, break those circles, and bring it to the general public, because that's where we really can go big. At the same time, to me, that brings me to the second point, which I think there is a huge opportunity around education. And that already brings it very close to what is Regtech. Because if you look at Regtech, there are many different type of organizations that claim to be in a Regtech space, and some of them are actually specialized in understanding and making an interpretation of law and regulation. At the first time, you basically take it, but on the second time, you also provide that information to an audience, and typically within the bank, because that's already a challenge, because there's so many regulation coming. So how would you understand and disseminate within your group? So there is a skill that we have in Regtech. It's something that we have tried before and that we have learned. So I think their Regtech can already help on the cryptocurrency market, because if we can bring similar best practices and we help them, we probably can also leverage that, so we can bring education to a wider audience. And in my opinion, very much needed to go forward.
Point, because there is a wide space in the market where, you know, there's a need to really understand the regulation and dissect it, and, you know, make it compliant according to cross-border regulations. So, and specifically in crypto space. So that's a great point.
No, very true. And then I think another one is around collaboration, because Regtech also, in my opinion, you had the first wave, which was, to me, the typical fintech wave, right? It was 2008, the world was in crisis, financial crisis, and suddenly fintech rose from the ashes. And fintech was something in the beginning where you said, well, we don't like the system, we we want to change it, we want to bring new ways of thinking, and we want to really bring that client in a very central position. But nowadays, fintech, well, it's wrong to say that fintech is not successful. It's extremely successful. However, Regtech has changed a little bit in that perspective, that Regtech is providing, in my opinion, services to a bank in a collaboration mode to actually make sure a bank survives.
Right.
So that's a fundamental different way of thinking than fintech. While you use similar technologies, you use similar type of thinking, but you do it in a different way. And I think there it's a matter of language. If you're in a bank, you speak a different language than you do as a startup.
Of course.
And Regtech has made that bridge. So Regtech is able to have to speak that language. So I think there is a lot to learn from the ICO market to look at Regtech and to collaborate and to do things together, because it is a matter of culture and it's a matter of language.
That is so true. It's the language and the lingo and the syntax and everything in technology is so much different than the banking, and sometimes startups fail to incorporate that business banking expertise into the technology products, and get developed with the most sophisticated technology, but in isolation from the business knowledge. So that's so yeah. Thanks for bringing up that point. That's an amazing. And to wrap up the conversation, I just wanted to ask you what, in your view, are the top 3 conferences that you're going to be attending this year, or anyone interested in Regtech should attend or look forward to as a takeaway for our audience?
Yeah. Now, the one I'm particularly looking forward to be part of is it's a FinTech Plus event in Switzerland, in Zurich. It's the 1st and the 2nd of October. Why I'm so interested in that one? Well, first of all, for my personal view, being the CEO for Belgium, Luxembourg, Blanco, because I think there's a lot of things happening in Switzerland in terms of the wealth management industry. Traditionally, as we all know, private banking was thriving in Switzerland. More in particular, because Switzerland is really in Europe taking the lead in terms of ICO. So they're trying to position themselves as the cryptocurrency place to be. And you kind of feel that as well. I mean, there are banks that even have a helpline open that says, if you're a cryptocurrency person, either an ICO or you would like to open up an exchange, they provide you a help number. They provide you a person to speak. Yeah. And that's one of the only countries where I've seen that. Yeah, so if you ask me what is the number 1, I would really say that one.
I've heard Switzerland has been nicknamed as Crypto Valley, just like Silicon Valley was in the olden times for California. Switzerland is now the Crypto Valley.
Well, you share a few mountains as well, actually, with Silicon Valley and Switzerland.
Well, Koen, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for joining and providing such useful insights. And I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.